Hello. Welcome to the poster session titled Effects of Function-Based Computer-Assisted SDLMI on Self-Determination and On-Task Behavior for Youth with Extensive Support Needs. My name is Ashley Vogt, and I would like to acknowledge my colleagues and their contributions to this dissertation study that I will have the opportunity to present to you today. My colleagues from University of North Carolina at Charlotte, Dr. Charlie Wood, and Wen-Shin Chang. So let's jump in. First of all, the first section that this poster presents is the abstract, and this is a brief snapshot of what you can expect from this poster. So we understand for the outcomes for students with extensive support needs remain lower across all three areas of transition. In order to improve those outcomes, educators and researchers often employ targeted interventions that support predictors, such as increasing self-determination skills. This study particularly used a multiple probe across participants design to examine the effect of function-based computer-assisted self-determined learning model of instruction for students in their classrooms, on-task behavior, and then also their knowledge of the SDLMI. Results indicated a functional relation between the independent variable and dependent variables. We also discuss social validity, implications for practice, and offer suggestions for future research. To build the rationale here, I will just explain to you very briefly that research suggests that students with low incidence disabilities often have deficits in communication skills, which result in challenging behavior. So those expressive and receptive difficulties in communication often lead to engaging in challenging behavior. Research suggests the effectiveness of addressing that challenging behavior by employing interventions that, in isolation, address the function of challenging behavior or incorporate technology in some way or increase self-determination skills specifically, but relatively few studies combine the effects of those interventions, and that leads us to the purpose of this particular study. We aimed to replicate and extend the work from Azadi et al. 2012 and 2013 by testing the effects of an intervention package that addresses the function of students' challenging behaviors by increasing self-determination through a computer-assisted approach. And this was done for students to increase their on-task behavior and also their knowledge of the SDLMI. They were 3 youth with extensive support needs in a rural high school setting. So our research questions are the following, and that is the effect of this intervention package on on-task behavior and their knowledge of the SDLMI, as well as a pre- and post-test measure of goal attainment through GAS scales and their levels of self-determination through the self-determination inventory. We also tested the effects of generalized effects as well in an untrained setting. And then we also examined the perceptions of this intervention package according to students and teachers and job skills supervisors' perceptions. So our method was the following here. We have participants, first of all, 2 teachers who also served as job skills supervisors because the students that they recommended were 14 and 15 years old. They were job skill coaches as well as teachers in the classroom because students were required to be 18 to go off campus to do job skill instruction. So these teachers implemented not only classroom instruction but also job skill instruction in a setting that was very similar to the classroom. The 3 students who were nominated by their teachers who participated in this intervention received special education services under the categories of intellectual disability and educational autism. The setting was a rural high school setting, and it was a self-contained classroom. The work setting was very similar to the classroom setting. Materials were the intervention package that presented the function-based computer-assisted SDLMI modules through interactive technology, and it was adapted PowerPoint lessons that were recorded through video modeling using Screencast-O-Matic and then uploaded to YouTube, at which point links were shared to students' Google Drives. And the students were able to log in and view the video modules independently. Student responses were recorded through GoPro, and that's also how we collected and iterated reliability and procedural fidelity across 30% of all sessions described here. And we also had some data sheets that reflected the student knowledge of the SDLMI according to the intervention package that followed the SDLMI series. And then also we observed their percentage of on-task behavior using whole interval observations. The first step of the procedure was to conduct an FBA to understand the function of students' challenging behavior. We first of all did an interview using functional assessment checklists for students and teachers, and then did supplementary also ABC observation recording. The results of these were confirmed by BCBA-D. We had baseline at our business as usual in the multiple probe setting, and we did first of all test the knowledge of the SDLMI using a 27-item probe that followed the structure of the SDLMI. Then we did direct observation measures of on-task and in-class and on-train work setting as well. So once in baseline for the work setting and probed on-task behavior in baseline. Then the goal attainment scales and self-determination inventory were administered in baseline to determine a pretest level of goal attainment and self-determination levels. Training practice probes that were similar to how the format of the intervention package were provided to the students so that they could get a feel for how to interact with this program. Then, as intervention was implemented through the 3 phases of the SDLMI, where students were guided to set a goal, make a plan, and adjust the plan to address their challenging behavior based on the function of that challenging behavior. Students learned a replacement behavior in that way. Mastery criteria for the probes for knowledge of SDLMI were set to 7 out of 9. Booster sessions looked like intensive instruction, repeated trials, and opportunities for practice, and these were needed for the students to reach mastery. And they're indicated in our data that we will look at together next. So maintenance data were collected for 2 weeks after the intervention prior to COVID, and also generalization was measured once in post-test as well, and in the maintenance section, and we noticed how the students' on-task behavior in that workplace setting changed from their pre-test measure and baseline. We also compared post-test GAS scores and post-test SDI scores as well. Social validity questionnaire results were also collected. So here you can see we're going to spend some time here going through the results, and you can notice that our first participant, Tomer, young man, 15 years old, function of his challenging behavior was attention seeking. Pietro, 15 years old, his function of challenging behavior was escape maintained behavior, and Yael, 14 years old, the function of her challenging behavior was automatic. Sensory related. So these students went through the package and learned SDLMI through a computer-assisted mechanism as described before, and their unique experiences taught replacement behaviors to address the function of their challenging behavior. And baseline, you can notice that Tomer's baseline data are very variable, and even increasing. However, the first phase is much lower, and overall, generally in phase 1, this is prior to really learning the actual goal. The goal is technically set, and your behavior is learned in phase 2. So notice that also, according to the impact of our tally results, our effect sizes are large for both sides, and it was not necessary to correct for baseline, despite what the data are suggesting here. They had no impact on the effect size, and it was not necessary to correct for baseline as well. Notice that there is a functional relation, especially as you move into phase 2 when that goal is learned. And notice how knowledge of SDLMI and on-task behavior follow high levels as you move through maintenance, and your on-task behavior drops, but your knowledge of the SDLMI remains high. So there's similar findings here for Pietro as well. His knowledge of SDLMI and on-task behavior increase, especially once we get to that phase 2. Booster sessions are indicated with asterisks, and this is when more intensive instruction and even visual supplements are provided for students as well to make sure that they are reaching mastery. Again, our effect sizes are large, and it was not necessary to correct for baseline at any point in time. These were conducted, these TAU were conducted to also enhance future efforts for TAU results were conducted to enhance future efforts for meta-analyses. Notice here that for our overall results for the self-determination inventory, you have a massive decrease in pre-test, post-test things or scores here, because perhaps a more realistic view of self-determination was gained between pre and post-test. Notice how also between each student's post-test and compared to their teacher's view of their self-determination is actually more comparable in the post-test as well. So I think that was possibly due to the fact that students have a better understanding of their self-determination after the intervention. Also worth noting is the results for the goal attainment scales across participants, and you can see that pre-test was quite lower in comparison to post-test, where you see a peak and then also a drop off again after maintenance, suggesting that, as we already know, students with extensive support needs require intensive supports consistently, and that might explain why we see a drop off after the intervention package was completed. So in terms of implications, some things that this study definitely confirms and adds to the field in terms of, we know that using technology is an engaging way, and also it releases a lot of responsibility from the teacher, increases student autonomy in their learning. So it's definitely something that we should do for our students, but also to address the students' function of their challenging behavior. Teaching or replacement behavior in this way was effective and definitely warrants more research. So students were able to learn goal setting, and they were able to learn replacement behaviors, but more research in the future would need to target the functions of challenging behavior in inclusive settings, and also extend this work and generalization, planning for generalization, especially in different settings as well, from classrooms to actual job settings. Then to incorporate more salient supports within the program to reduce the need for boosters was also necessary for future research. So thank you so much for tuning into this video. I would like to offer a meeting with you through Zoom on March 11th from 4:45 p.m. Also, you can reach out to me through email with any questions. I look forward to discussing these findings with you more. Thank you.